And there are times that I've been looking at something and it'll take me 2 months, and I may be studying the same thing for 2 months. And then I'll take a break from it, and I'll go on, and I'll come back, and I'll keep asking the Lord, Lord, help me understand. I'm not going to give up until you help me understand what this is saying. And how many of you, think about this, how many of you, okay, can I share the special present we gave you kids when you were younger? Yeah. So just let me tell you a little story, and then I'll get in. I promise I will get into the word, but I want to lay a foundation for tonight. So when the kids were young, one of the things that I wanted to do was help my kids understand how Satan works. I wanted them to understand his schemes, because it's important to be able to identify how he plays with our emotions, how he plays with our desires, how he twists the truth. Because Scripture says that when his lips are moving, he's lying. There's no truth in him. You never have to worry about Satan telling you something that's partially true. He will always lie. It's just always going to be a lie. Always. He will, in every way, make something a lie. There is no truth in him. One Christmas, when my kids were fairly young, I ended up getting a couple of jewelry boxes. I put a very special present inside the jewelry boxes. I wrapped them up and I put them underneath of the tree. And I told the kids for weeks, I can't wait till you get that gift. I mean, those two little ones down there, those two little gifts, those right there, those are it. That's it right there. And I would point to them, and I would tell them, and I would tease them with these gifts. And and it was getting closer to Christmas, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait till you guys get these gifts. Gosh, I mean, you're gonna love it. You're just gonna love it. I'm just telling you. And they were peaked, right? Peaked. So we're getting close to Christmas, and it's maybe, I don't know, 20th, 21st, 22nd, somewhere in there. It's before Christmas. It wasn't on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. I'm like, you guys want to open your special presents? And of course they did, right? So they go, I give them each it. I'm like, okay, ready? Go. Pull it open, and they look. And there's a piece of dog crap in there. A nice little dried up doggy nugget. And my kids looked at me, and they looked down at the box, and they looked back up at me, and Landon says, is this a doggy turd? I said, it is. Do you like it? And that was when the noose came down, right? The little rabbit trap. I'm like, this is exactly what Satan will do to you over and over and over and over again. He's going to give you something that looks all tasty. It's going to look good. It's going to be wonderful. He's going to build it up. He's going to make you think it's the best thing. You're going to open it up and it's just crap. I said, I don't ever want you guys to forget this. Which they didn't. It scarred them for life. But you know what? They've never forgotten it. And we've gone back to that conversation. And there are numerous times in our family from then until now that we have this little phrase. And it's chocolate-covered dog poop. And that's what we say. It's like, that is chocolate-covered dog poop. It looks good, but if you were to bite into it, it would just be junk in your mouth. And we identify those things, and we see them now. We use discernment to identify that. We go back to that little experience that we had when they were kids, and we go back to that, and we talk about that. And it's been part of how we trained our kids to see the schemes of Satan. And I would much rather have them get it when they're 6 and 8 than to wait until they're 26 and 28, right? We don't have to worry about that with the Scripture. It's just okay. It's safe. There's nothing about it. So if you get into something and it seems odd or strange and you're like, okay, I don't understand it, so I'm just going to set it aside, don't do that. Push past it. Approach the Lord and ask Him, God, what does that mean? What does that mean? Because you're telling me this book, the Revelation, is for the church. You gave it to Jesus to give to me, and I want to know, what does it mean? And let Him help you find the answer. Let Him help you understand. All right? Yes, sir?
Do you find, since you can look everything up now, do you feel like you should know, like, figure out yourself, or?
Oh, when you're studying something?
Yeah.
So this is a great question. The question was, if you didn't hear it, since you can find everything online and everybody is a genius with Google, do you use it as a reference, or you can find everything? Why not just look it up? So I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with looking stuff up on the internet. And there are some things that I do because I'm curious to see what other people think. But I don't let what other people say teach. I don't let it decide what truth is.
It's like Wikipedia, kind of, right?
Yeah. I will listen to a compelling argument, but I will also disagree with a compelling argument. If I don't see something in Scripture and somebody's trying to get me to believe something, or they're preaching something or teaching something that requires a priori knowledge, in other words, something that existed before, and you have to agree with me on these things here to agree with me where I'm at now, those are things I usually set aside, because unless I've got time to go back and research their foundations, it's not useful to me, right? So that's how books on the occult work. If you read a book from Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, they'll walk you into things, because little by little it's a twist here and a twist there and a twist here and a twist there and a twist here, so that by the time you get to the end, you're way off track, but it sounds right? So anyways, I say all that to say, I like Scripture defining Scripture. If I see something in Scripture, I go look in Scripture to find it. If I can't find it in Scripture, most of the time I shelf it and I just wait. Sometimes I'll go out and look at historical references. There are times like today, like for example on the white stone, I've got a fun little thing on the white stone. As a matter of fact, I'll just tell you now. I learned this week that white stones were used in the Greek and Roman cultures during votes. So you had a white stone and a black stone, and when it was time to vote for somebody's innocence or guilt, you'd put a black stone in for guilt, a white stone for innocence. And Rick Renner, who's somebody I love, Rick Renner wrote a book called Seducing Spirits and Doctrines of Demons. That's the first book I ever read of his back in the 80s. And they have a ministry in Russia. They're based out of Tulsa. rickrenner.org, giving you a plug, Rick. He does a lot of Greek studies. He's been studying Greek for years. I've learned a lot from him over the years. He brought that up, and he referenced some historical secular documents that show that Greeks and Romans did this. It's not in Scripture anywhere. Like white stone, we have nothing. I studied it. There's nothing in Scripture that says what a white stone is used for. Nothing. So in those cases, we walk away and we're like, you know what? Jesus chose a white stone because it was important, right? And that's it, right? And someday we figure we'll know the truth. Is it because white means innocent and the white stone is that you get a permanent name? Your name is written in innocence? I mean, that's what Rick Renner was saying. He's like, you know what? If that's what this means, that white stone with your name written on it means that you are declared innocent by God, and He is the one that cast that stone, and you have your name written on it. It's one of those things that can never be taken away, right? I just got that email this morning. It just came in this morning. I thought it was convenient that it showed up today, right? So I do, but I don't. But I always go back to Scripture for everything else. Yeah. All right, let's do it. Here we go. So, Revelation 7. We're going to talk about the 144,000. Some organizations, Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, believe that 144,000 people are the only people that are getting into the New Jerusalem. That leaves a little bit of a problem with Jehovah's Witness doctrine, because when we get to the end of the Revelation, it says that, Scripture says in the Revelation, that all those who are outside the cities are whores, those who practice witchcraft, liars, and adulterers. And so sometimes when they come to my door, I say, which one are you? A whore, a witch, a liar, an adulterer? Because I ask them, are you going into the city? And they say, no, those people have already been there. I'm like, well, then this Scripture verse says that you're a lie, a whore, a witch, or an adulterer. So which one are you? And I'm like, why would I want to be that? I don't want to be that. If you're not going in the city and these are what the people who are outside the city are, I don't want to be that. And usually the conversation ends and they put me on the blacklist. So, yeah, the Blackstone. And I'm not mean about it. I'm just saying it's just one of those points where, because the little twist here, little twist there, it goes back to that. The lie, the lie, the lie. By the time you get to the end, it doesn't all line up. And then all of a sudden, you're stuck having to figure out, And the answer is, but the world's going to be beautiful. It'll be recreated. We're going to love living in the world. It's like, okay, whatever you do that. I'm going to live in the city.